Welcome to part 2. We're looking at tibbles right now, and now we're going to look at how flexible they are. We just saw that when you create a tibble, that a tibble sort of adjusts itself to make sure that it's an appropriate data frame. Remember that data frames always have to have vectors of the same length. So if we don't put in the same length vectors with the tibble command, it will adjust for us and make it the same length rather than giving us an error message. So now we're going to look at flexibility of tibbles. So I'm now on line 35 in the script that I provided for you. You can use backticks to create column names that would otherwise not be valid R names. Take a look at this. Look at this strange tibble here. We have a little emoticon smiley face as the name, and we'll call that happy. And then we have 3 spaces here that we'll call 3 spaces, and now we have 2 values. So let's see what happens when we create this, and let's look at it. So we see both things going on here. We see the names of our variables, including these really strange names, and we see that the last vector, which was 2 in length, meant that the first 2 vectors also became 2 in length. Also notice that these are as characters, the first and second vector, and the third one is as a double, numerical. You can create a tibble with the tibble function. How do you like these names? This is short for transposed tibble. So we can use tibble as a function to create a tibble, very much like we can use the function matrix to create a matrix. You define column headings with a tilde, and the purpose of tibble is to make it easy to set up inline data entry in column form. Okay, so look at this. So here we're creating student data with the tibble function. So we use the tilde to indicate the headings of the columns, first name, last name, score. And then what we can do is we can enter these, and it's very much like entering rows of data in a data set, which is what the purpose is of the tibble function. Let's look at our function here. You see it's first name, last name, score. And then you can see our actual values that we have. Hadley Wickham suggests a nice little tweak to separate the header from the data. So we put in here the exact same data I just did, but now notice we put this commented line in here. And so when we run this, we still get the same tibble out. But in our actual input statement, it's almost looking like a spreadsheet here. Tibbles are designed to provide header information that can print easily in the console. You'll see 10 rows and only as many columns that fit. So let's look at a data frame in the usual fashion. This is a correlation matrix of 24 psychological tests given to 145 7th and 8th graders in a Chicago suburb. So this is already built in. This Harmon74.core is built in. We're going to pull out from it, as you can see here. We're going to pull out from it this covariance matrix. So I'm going to widen this screen and let's look at it. So here's what we end up having. Very difficult to read. Now let's make this a tibble and look at it. So I'm going to use the asTibble function. And I notice here that I get a warning message. So I need to update my script. It said asTibble is deprecated. So you need to use as underscore, but it also warns us mind the new semantics. So evidently something's changed about asTibble. Let's make sure that it works here for us. It did. No error messages. So let's take a look at it. And so this is what we get. Much more easy to read in the console windows. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables, but it tells us how many more variables there are. It lists what they are, what their data type is, and tells us how many more rows we have. Remember that the tibble is made to help it be easy as you're actually working with the data in R, and you can see how that is. We don't need to see all the data when we're setting it up. We just need to see that what we have and that it's set up in the proper format. We can ask for different numbers of rows and different print width from the tibble. So here I'm going to print out the tibble, har.tib, but I'm going to tell it, please give me 15 rows and let's make the width 40. So let's try that. Okay, so now it's given me 15 rows and it's only made the width 40 characters, so I didn't need to expand my screen as much as I did. I was thinking 40 would be much bigger than that. To extract from a tibble, you can use name or position. So this is the usual way that we would subtract from a data frame. We would do it by name, and you can do the same thing here. This is the extract function, of course, the double brackets, and here we're doing it by name. And we know that name is difficult to use if we have something like a loop, so notice that you can also do it by position. So all three of those gave us the same thing. If you run into an old R function that doesn't work with the tibble, just use the asDataFrame function. That warns you there that there are some functions that don't work with the tibble. And when that's the case, then all you have to do is say asDataFrame and notice what happens. Remember, first let me type in student.data to remind you that we have a tibble with that data, and notice what happens when I say as.dataframe student.data. Then it prints it not as a tibble, but you can tell from the fact it's not showing you the type of data here, down here, that this is showing it as a data frame. You don't even have to switch it out of being a tibble. You could just use this whole command within your function, and that way you don't have to change the data type just for that one function. So any old base R functions or in another package that aren't working, try that. Okay, let's review what we've learned about tibbles. The tidyverse stores data in tibbles that are special data frames. Printing a tibble results in different information than printing data frames. It displays the first 10 rows and only enough columns to fit on a screen. The type of each column is displayed, but you can use options to control how much you print. Columns of tibbles can be extracted by name or position. Regular data frames can be converted to tibbles with the asTibble function. A tibble can be converted to a data frame with the asDataFrame functions, which is good when you have a R function that is giving you an error message because it doesn't recognize a tibble, so it's not working with the tibble. Tibbles will work great in the tidyverse, which is where you're going to spend most of your time probably, but sometimes you need to do specialized things, and as we've already discussed, you can use R functions even when you're working in the tidyverse. I'll see you in part 3, where we'll start to talk about importing data.